Women boycott martial arts competition rather than compete against biological men. They say they fear for their lives. Let's talk about it. This is the North American Grappling Association, the NAGA. Now, their former trans inclusion policy allowed biological men to compete against biological women. Now, this has led to an uproar. See, several female martial artists have withdrawn from recent competitions due to their concerns about facing transgender athletes. Now, let's just keep it real. This is not weightlifting. This isn't track and field, but combat sports, where competitors are trying to physically hurt each other. Now, we have seen in the past where biological men have dominated women's events in the name of inclusion and diversity. But this ignores the reality that men have physical advantages over women. Not because of bigotry, it's because of reality. This is especially true when it comes to combat sports. Here's a clip of Joe Rogan talking about Fallon Fox, a biological man who hid the fact that they were a man and seriously hurt women in MMA. Check out this clip.
But that was not what was going on here. What was going on here was this woman who used to be a man for 32 years transitioned to being a woman and it didn't tell anybody. Fought two different women who thought they were fighting a woman and got fucking smashed.
Badly injured, yeah.
Well, I was watching it. It was like watching a man fight a woman. That's what I was watching. I was like, this isn't like particularly, she wasn't particularly skillful. It wasn't like she had like some unbelievable background in judo, like Ronda Rousey or something like that. It wasn't that. You were just literally watching a former man beat up women who never had the benefit of 30 years plus of testosterone in their body.
But even with these facts, the North American Grappling Association allowed biological men to compete against biological women in jiu-jitsu. So the women started complaining because they were scared out of their mind. Now, the old policy only asked competitors to identify as a male or female without the option to declare a transgendered status. So trans women signed up because the rule allowed them to. You only had to, quote, identify as a woman. Now, remember earlier this year, the Canadian Powerlifting Union had a similar policy, and trans lifter Annie Andrews, a biological male, set the women's powerlifting record. Now, remember, another man, Avi Silverberg, went and just said that he identified as a woman and shattered Annie's record to show the absurdity of allowing biological men to hold women's records. Now, the North American Grappling Association had the same policy, leading to transgender athletes winning 4 gold medals in women's competitions, and another transgender grappler winning 2nd place. Several women have voiced their concerns about the safety of competing against transgender women due to the uneven matchups. Trans women are bigger, stronger. They are essentially men. The women were so concerned that they withdrew from the major tournaments to avoid facing biological men. Now, as a result, the North American Grappling Association had to revisit its rules. Now, transgender females can only compete against men. Now, this decision comes after complaints about transgender females participating in recent events. One competitor shared a video of her fighting a significantly heavier transgendered athlete. While she won, her coach expressed concerns about potentially severe injuries. Jaden Alexander, another competitor, expressed her distress after fighting a transgendered woman in July. She described the experience as horribly scary and emphasized the need for rules and regulations to ensure women's safety. Here's one of the women's accounts about fighting a man.
I am sure you have seen the posts about the trans-identified males who have been signing up and competing in the women's brackets at a few jiu-jitsu events over the past couple of months. Being one of the women who competed against women and spoke out about it, I just wanted to get on here and share my experience. I competed against a trans-identified male on Jiu-Jitsu 8 at a submission challenge in Marietta, Georgia, where he registered in my blue belt women's absolute division. It did not take me very long into my match for me to realize that I was not, in fact, competing with a woman. To say the experience was horrible and scary. I was absolutely in fight or flight mode, and as a seasoned competitor, I can honestly say I've never been there mentally before in a match. I've been in spots where I've been subbed, and I've never felt unsafe during a match. After my match, I literally went to the mat side while my teammates were massaging on my arms, and I just could not help but cry and look at my coach and say, that was a man. But despite winning via rear naked choke in overtime, I was devastated, to say the least, by what I had just experienced. It really negatively affected my next match. In the upcoming months, when I went to compete again, I had to self-exclude from a World Series of Jiu-Jitsu and from a women's absolute bracket at a Naga to avoid competing with not one but two trans male athletes. I kind of felt silly for not speaking up about it sooner, other than like commenting and arguing on Ansley's post about it. But honestly, I just didn't know what to do at first. The fear and reservations that most women have, which is to be called a transphobic bigot who just wants to hate on people. And if you know me personally, you know that is not the case at all. The simple fact of the matter is that men signing up in a combat sport to fight women is absolutely unacceptable. We don't deserve to be having to self-exclude from competitions to avoid fighting men. And we deserve for there to be rules and regulations put into place that keep us safe and that protect us from these situations happening in the first place. And that is what ultimately led me to work with icons and with Reddix to speak out about this, because it's something that needs to change. And I'm really glad that I did. Sport has been so uplifting. It's been great. And the feedback is, oh my God, it's literally just been wonderful. And then the fact that Naga, not even 24 hours later, changed their policy or revised their policy has been a breath of fresh air.
Now, the North American Grappling Association believes that some transgender athletes might have been competing by simply marking female on the registration forms without anyone noticing. Now, with women straight up boycotting the events, what are they going to do? Well, they've decided to change the policy. Their policy now states, we will have divisions for only biological females. Transgender females will not be entered into these divisions. Then it goes on to say transgender females must compete in the men's division. So the new policy makes it very clear that biological men cannot compete with biological women, and trans women must compete in the men's division. Now, trans activists calls this transphobic and exclusive. Trans women are real women, just like any other women. Now listen, I'm all for inclusion and diversity. But there is a line. We have a women's category for a reason, and pretending that men don't have physical advantages over women is ridiculous. We know for a fact that if we did not have a separate category for women, women wouldn't win anything. And God is the person we have to thank for that problem. Men can't have babies, and pretending that they can is also madness. Now, tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section. Should women boycott these competitions in which trans women are allowed to compete? I understand people are going to say that I'm not sensitive to the topic, but I think I am. And I wish there was a simple way around it, but I think at this point in time, unless you can reverse the effects of puberty, then you're going to have this issue. But let me know in the comment section what you think. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you next time. Peace.